Welcome all to this tutorial. Today we are going to attempt to mount a partition that we have created, and we will play around with it a little bit. So first of all, we will deal with temporary mounting, and then we will set up permanent mounting options in Fstat, Etsy Fstat. First off, imagine that you have a USB or something of a kind and you've just plugged it into your computer. So suppose that you don't have the GUI interface up and running and you want to mount it through the terminal. Or what is a more common case, you have created a new disk partition and you need to set up the auto mounting options for it. Well, for both of those things, for the temporary mounting, we will use the mount option. So mount, plain English language. If you want to mount a partition, just type in mount. That's literally it. All that you need to type in there. So go ahead and type in dev stb, and I would like to mount the second partition of the stb disk, and I would like to mount it to M and T. Now, since I have mounted it there, let's go to M and T ls. There is literally nothing there. So let's go ahead and type in mkdir hey ls. Okay, we have hey in there. Let's reverse back and type in unmount. Sorry, not unmount, sorry, umount. So umount. A common error that people make is type in unmount, but it's just umount. I guess somebody thought it would be simpler like that. Dev stb2. Aside from writing stb2, you can also type in the mount location as well, but you can just, I prefer to type in the disk name. So stb2, not the disk name, sorry, the name for the partition. You mount, okay, target is temporarily busy. Why is it busy? Well, root is currently using that folder. How do we know? Well, pwd, I am in that folder. So let's go get out of there, and now let's try to unmount it. You see, I have successfully unmounted it. But what has happened to this file that I have created here, this directory that I have created? What happened to that? So let's go back to mnt and do ls. You see, it is no longer there. It is quite literally gone. Why is it gone? It's not actually deleted or anything of a kind. It's still in existence, but the partition has been unmounted and it is no longer used by the system. Since it is no longer used by the system, the file is no longer accessible to us until we actually mount the drive again, mount the partition again. So let's go ahead and do that, but this time let's go ahead and create a new folder in which to mount it. So this is also a nice feature. You can pretty much create these folders for yourselves, specify their location, or just type in mkdir in mnt. And this one will be, what shall we name the folder? I do not know. Let's see, what do I have on my table? Nah, that would be stupid. Let's just do Udemy. That seems fine. So we have a folder called Udemy now. If I do ll, you will see that there is a folder Udemy here that has been created there. Let's go ahead and type in the mount command again. I'm so lazy with this typing. Prefer to use these things in this fashion. Excellent. So it says mount space /dev /stb2. And where shall we mount this? Well, mnt Udemy L, and if we enter Udemy now, ls, you will see that the directory that we have created previously does indeed exist there. So it's hey. This directory will exist anywhere where on any mount point where the partition has actually been mounted. Fairly simple, no big deal there. You just type in the command, you type in mount, you type in the partition here, and then you type in the mount point here. As long as you have the permissions, as long as the permissions are right, this shouldn't be a problem. But for example, if I try to, well, let's dismount it. So you mount, I'm gonna have to exit this first. So you mount Udemy. You see, I can also type mount Udemy. I don't need to type in the partition at all, type in the partition name at all. Rather, instead, I can just type in mount Udemy, and now I will be able to actually go ahead and create an error message for you. So let's go ahead and try to mount this to a non-existent folder. Let's type in test here, or even better, I do not exist. Let's put it so, and there you go. It says mount point I do not exist does not exist. It is not there, so it won't be able to mount it until we first create it. It won't create it for us. Please keep that in mind. That is a common error encountered by people in general. And as I was saying, if you have a USB drive or something like that, well, just type in fdisk-l and find it here. It can be a little bit disorientating. It's nothing too difficult. You see here it says dev sdb2, dev sda. You can also see the size, and usually by that size you can figure out which disk, which one of these is actually your USB drive. Also, generally people know the partitioning schemes of their disks, so they know that it's not STB, they know that it's not SDA or anything of a kind, because that's something that they've created. So as soon as they see something new, they know it's a USB drive. But honestly, the easiest way that I have found is simply by looking at the size, and then you will be able to also see that it has some sort of partitioning scheme, like I don't know, it will say Vstat, NTFS, or Windows, something of a kind. Doesn't really matter. You will be able to see it there, recognized. It literally stabs the eyes. So let's go ahead and clear the screen. But you see, these things are temporary mounts. This mount will not survive system-wide reboot. What we need to do is create permanent mounting points for these. We've created mounting points, but we need to tell the system, we need to tell the kernel, okay, I would really like it if you would mount these partitions at boot time. That would be really nice, because I don't really feel like typing it in every time I log in. There's another way of doing this, which is not the brightest of ways. You can set up a cron job to auto mount the partitions for you, to automate tasks at boot time or at specific times. But I do believe that we will deal with automated tasks in process management part. For the time being, let's go ahead and edit the etc fstat. So vim/etc fstab, press enter, and there you go. We've just opened up this file, and in this file we have some useful information here. For example, you see here for the mounting of this particular partition, where it says boot, UUID has been used. Now this is unique. This will not change, and this will stay the same. Device names might change depending on the system configuration, or depending if things change in general on servers or something of a kind. There are situations when this happens, but we don't need to go into them now. Just know that this does not change and that this might change. So keep that in mind. Also, there is another simpler fashion of actually doing this, more akin to our human understanding. You all remember that we have specified the labels for our disks, and we can actually have a look at the labels, because I'm not actually sure what they are, or let's say that I'm not sure what they are. So let's just type in blkid. And there you go. We have our partitions listed here. So 4 of them. Down below we have some other things as well. We will deal with them at a certain point of time. Do not worry about it. Here it says UUID for SDA1, and then it gives us the UUID, and then it says type XFS. But let's go ahead and see SDB1, which is more interesting to us. We have a label. You see SDA1 and 2 do not have labels. SDB1 does have a label. It says coffee, or the one that we have created during the previous tutorial, if I'm not mistaken, it says spoon. I know, strange labels, right? I would advise you to give some sort of meaningful labels to these partitions so that you actually might later on know what they are or what their purpose is. But for the time being, I just named them coffee and spoon because those are the two things that I literally saw in front of myself on my table. Again, we have the same information that follows it. You have the UUID and then you have the type XFS, but we are interested in this part. So let's take this label for example. It says spoon. Let's go back to Etsy Fstat, and here we will say, okay, we want to insert first. Bring me to the end, enter, and let's type in label. I could have just as easily typed in dev and so on and so forth, just typing in the partition name, but no, that's not really the preferred way of doing this. Probably one of the best ones is UUID, but the simplest for us to understand is in all likelihood the label. So let's use the label in this example. Type in label equals spoon, and the mount directory shall be mnt. Okay, we are using this for testing purposes, but feel free to make your own. Udemy. The file system type will be XFS. You can just set the mount options to defaults. There is literally no need to do anything here, and you can feel free to copy the rest of the stuff here. Shouldn't do any harm really. Let's just go ahead and paste it here. The columns here are not properly aligned. They generally are, but you see the UUID is messing it up just a little bit. I guess you can format this to look a little bit better or something of a kind, but don't think it's gonna help you all that much. Anyway, let's go ahead and exit this, but before we do, remember please to save it all. So go ahead and right quit. Now that we have Fstat up and running, you can clear the screen, and there is an option mount-a, but you're telling the system in such a way to mount everything that is mountable. Let's do that. No problems. Okay, let's go ahead and check whether the Udemy is actually whether the SDB2 is mounted properly. So let's go ahead and enter enter mnt Udemy ls. Hey, guess what? It is. It's right there. This is one way of checking it, of course. You definitely know that it is indeed there. You can also type in mount grep dev sdb2, press enter, and there you go. You can see that it is mounted on mnt Udemy. It says, well, here, let me just select it for you. You'll be able to see it better. Dev sdb2 on mnt Udemy. Let's go ahead and unmount it and just try to do it one more time to see if it's actually working properly, because I'm not sure whether I have left it mounted or not. Let's go ahead and use unmount. Hey, this was brilliant. This was a brilliant error on my part. So Udemy, unmount Udemy, and then mount the -a. Again, we get no errors, but if we just do unmount Udemy one more time and then do mount-a, I'm making these fascinating errors. So I want to unmount Udemy, and then I want to show you something. Let's go ahead and type in, where do I have that command? Yep, there we go. So mount grep dev sdb2. It is not mounted. because it can't find, the system cannot find it. There is nothing to grep out of the mount output, and we can't actually see it there. So it is definitely not mounted now. If we go and enter the Udemy folder now, you can see that it is indeed empty and there is nothing there. If we just say mount-a and press enter, you will see soon enough that it is indeed mounted one more time. So it says hey, and if we use mount grep dev stb2, there you have it. You can see that it is actually mounted and it is there. So you know for sure that what you've placed in Etsy Fstat, okay, it might not be the best of syntaxes or something of a kind, but hey, you can know that it works and that it doesn't actually give you any errors or anything of a kind. For example, if the folder didn't exist, I've showed you that the error, that you'll basically be prompted with an error. It will say, hey, I don't really have that folder at all, so I can't really mount it. There is nothing to mount. The mount point does not exist. Another interesting feature is that at a certain point of time, we might want to change certain attributes of our partitions. So let's go ahead and use XFS, since we did format it as XFS. If I press tab twice, you can see that there are quite a bit of options here. Let's go ahead and say underline admin -- help. That's not really what I wanted. Let's do this. Let's do, you see, the help bar. The help is not very useful here. I suppose it can be useful in a way, but we can do, I know what I want to do, but I want to show you where you can actually get the useful information from it. So XFS admin. Excellent. So we have the man pages, and here you can read up on XFS files, XFS admin, and how you can actually use it in order to change the attributes of your partition after you have created them, which is not a bad idea. Look, you can even set the UUID of the file system. You can change the label. Is there anything else that I am thinking at this point of time that's interesting to us? No, not really, not at this point of time anyway, but let's just go ahead and exit this. What I really want to show you is how you can actually change these attributes after you have created a partition. So you type in XFS underline admin, and I think that the labels are quite ridiculous, so let's change it to something else. What shall I change it to? Well, no, not Silver Surfer. That would be a stupid name for a partition. Label for a partition. Let's call our partition Earth. I know, it's an original name. Anyway, this will be for dev SDB2, and it contains a mounted file system. Could not process this command. What do you think this is? Well, we have to unmount the system first. As you can see, it's mounted. As we can see this folder here, we need to get out of this folder and stop using it and type in umount and go ahead and type in Udemy, clear the screen, and let's go ahead and attempt XFS admin one more time. Hey, guess what? The new label is Earth. BLK ID. This is too much output. Let's go ahead and clear the screen. So BLK ID grep dev stb2, and you can see that the label is changed indeed. If I type in mount-a, it says cannot find label spoon, error. If I type in vim etsy fstab and change the label from spoon to Earth, if I just go ahead and write and quit this, now we can go ahead and try the mount-a option, and there you go. It works flawlessly without any errors and without any problems of whatsoever. Mount-a is simply to test out whether everything in whether you can actually mount everything that's specified in the Fstat file. One of the ways in which you can verify your configuration there, if there are no errors, it's working out just fine, and you can use BL, you can use mount and then grep and then the device name, so dev stb2, to figure out where it is exactly mounted and in which folder where the mount point is, and whether it is mounted or not at all. Anyway, I would like to bid you all farewell now, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.